So what's a beautiful white boy like you doing in a place like this?
It's the biggest fight yet at the rec yard in Rossmore State Penitentiary. John draws first blood, and things escalate when Nelson pulls out a screwdriver, but his cellmate comes prepared too, revealing a whole collection of shivs strapped under his waistband. He flings one at Biederman, who ducks just in time. They charge at each other, but it turns into more of a grappling match as they both hit the floor. Lashitsky gains an edge and stabs him, only for the blade to snap. Turns out the newbie's been wearing stolen license plates under his uniform, and even John has to respect the move.
Wow, that is so cool. I saw dress made out of credit cards in Vanity Fair a couple years ago. That's what gave me the idea. I like it. I got one for you.
And one man who's seen the worst of it is John Lashitsky. He's been in and out since age 8, starting off by stealing a Publishers Clearinghouse prize van right in the middle of their celebration, then walking straight into a bank with a billboard-sized check like it was a regular Tuesday. Cops didn't even sweat, just caught him and dragged him straight to Judge Nelson Biederman III. The judge found him guilty, slapped him with 7 years in juvie, and added some insults to go with it, calling him a waste of space. Lashitsky just scowled while the judge hammered the gavel, kicking off what would become a long-term relationship with prison. A few years later, out on the streets and already too old for juvie, he tried robbing 2 cops, point-blank range, and still missed. Moments later, guess who? He's standing in front of Judge Biederman again, with the same courtroom, same lecture, and back to the same cell. At 24, he gets out, enjoys 6 months of freedom, then steals a car and lands right back inside. The speech this time is on Car Theft 101, and it's not just the sentences that get to him, it's how the man never stops pointing out how dumb he is. So this time, after being let out, Lashitsky's got a plan because he doesn't mind going back in, but not before settling things with the old man. He rings the courthouse, pretending to be someone interested in sitting in on a case, and they tell him Judge Biederman's gone. Not retired, but dead gone. The guy damn near crushes the phone in his hand as if he'd gotten out just a few days earlier. He could have done something. Now it's too late, so he leaves the booth, fires a few rounds into it for good measure, then goes to a bar to cool off. That's where he sees a newspaper article about the late judge's son, Nelson Biederman IV, and just like that, he figures if he can't get the father, the son will do just fine. Next thing, he shows up at the Biederman Foundation event honoring the late judge, while the son takes the stage and gives a stiff speech about legacy and justice that has folks staring like they're watching a weird ad. Lashitsky sneaks into his car and makes a mess. Once it's over, Nelson IV hops into his car and heads to the office with some important folks waiting for him. He has no idea his drink's been flavored with someone else's spit, but it does taste funky enough to gag. Still, he's on the phone mid-rant, saying things you shouldn't say when there's a speakerphone on and an audience around. Then comes the stereo blasting loud as he stays totally unaware that the guy driving alongside him is the same one who just laced his cup, the criminal just waiting for round 2. Nelson's asthma kicks up and he grabs for his inhaler only to find it's empty, thanks to John, who emptied it back at the event. Panic hits and he's wheezing, gasping, swerving into a pharmacy lot where he stumbles inside without a word. The old couple behind the counter assumes the worst, that they're being robbed, and a bad one at that. He's tearing through shelves, knocking things over, sending boxes flying, but finally lands one inhaler that he lifts, trying to show them he's not a threat. But just as he does, John fires a shot in the air from outside. The old man hears it, sees Nelson holding something up, thinks it's a gun, hits the panic button, and the old lady fires. That's game, and it's mission complete because the judge's golden boy is going down for armed robbery. Now, the guy is locked up, yelling at his lawyer Dwayne, but the footage clearly shows him ransacking the pharmacy, so his best bet is pleading guilty to get a lighter sentence. Worst part is he's also got to step down as chairman of the Biederman Foundation. The lawyer makes the call with everyone on the board listening on speaker, and one guy suggests calling in a favor from the governor, but Dwayne shuts it down quickly. Everyone agrees it's better to take a break from Nelson anyway, so the attorney takes over for now. In court, he tries to sweet-talk Judge Eva before the trial, throwing around his connections and status, but she isn't having it. She tells him to sit and wait like everybody else.
People like you make me sick, and I don't want your Drakkar Noir stinking up my courtroom.
Prosecution, present your case.
The trial begins with a jury that looks like they got picked during a mall raffle. 12 people who don't seem like they've had a serious thought all week and are just excited to be there. The prosecution rolls the footage and the attorney gets up for his client's defense, walks to the jury, and mumbles something about Jurassic Park with no context, no connection, just a random movie reference that confuses everyone, including Nelson. That's the end of it, as they find him guilty of felony assault. Judge Eva gives him 3 to 5 years in Rossmore State Penitentiary. And just like that, John finally sees the man walk the same path his father made him walk over and over again. He cheers from the back, but once the noise dies down, it still doesn't feel like enough. Later, he's sitting with his boys smoking, clearly not satisfied, and one suggests magic potion, but John's looking for something deeper. Then, 2 men knock, wanting to buy some action, and while he knows they're cops, he lets them in anyway and sells to them. Once they leave, he tells his friends to clear out as he already knows what's coming. He's going back to prison, and that's the whole point. At arraignment, he skips the drama, pleads guilty, and requests Rossmore specifically. So the judge keeps it short, grants the wish, and bangs the gavel. Nelson, still in holding, ends up on the same prison transfer as John. The ride over is awkward, but the seasoned criminal keeps it friendly and asks his name, saying he hopes they end up as cellmates, and promising to be nice.
I don't snore, and I'm a pretty quiet masturbator. Hell, I'll even give you the top bunk.
At the prison, the new inmates line up for the warden's welcome speech, which is painfully dry and sadistic, as he tells them not to talk, not to complain, and if they think something's unfair, they should keep it to themselves because he absolutely does not care. John, who's already greased the right palms, gets to share a cell with Nelson. He finally knows what makes life meaningful, and that's waking up every day with a front row seat to mess with Biederman 4 however he wants. The new friends step into their cell, and just one look at the cruddy can has the privileged kid breaking down crying. But the man who's been through this routine too many times warns him to cut it out fast. If he doesn't toughen up, he's going to get eaten alive. The attempt to look tough that follows is so shaky it cracks up both the veteran and the male guy passing by. So begins life inside for the 4th generation Biederman, his first time doing time, while for his bunkmate, it's just another Tuesday. At lunch, they head to the canteen together, and the more experienced of the two starts tossing out random prison trivia, throwing in a few "did you knows," while pointing out Leonard, one of the gang shot callers, the White Kingdom. When the rookie asks how he knows all this, he shrugs and credits it to his mail subscriptions, claiming everything worth knowing finds its way to him. Things take a wild turn when the senior inmate tells his new cellmate to get up exactly at 12:15, but instead of listening, the newbie launches into a story about high school or something equally pointless. Before he finishes, Leonard pounces on another inmate and sends him crashing onto their table, then follows it up with a knife. While the lifer slides out of harm's way, the rookie just sits there frozen until he finally catches the cue to signal who started the mess when the guards come running. He automatically enters Leonard's bad book for snitching, with John scolding him back in the cell even though he made him do it. Now he's going on about Biederman needing to listen if he wants to survive, saying stuff like "look out for your cellmate," when the real rule in there is not to trust a damn soul. In the bathroom, while everyone's showering, Barry, the big black hairy guy who runs the G-Lords, walks up to the new guy, looking to claim him. But John steps, warning him and his crew to back off. Then he calls dibs on Biederman, marking him as his property and officially off limits. To seal the deal, he sticks a hand in Biederman's rear, just to drive the point home. Later, Dwayne visits, and Nelson tries to get him to work his release. But he's quickly reminded that with his position gone at the Biederman Foundation, he no longer controls any funds. The lawyer throws in a jab or two, then dials it back to avoid sounding like he's enjoying the downfall, but not before teasing him with his favorite drink, a Fresca. John, on the other hand, is bringing his version of hell, making sure the guy's time inside comes with regular headaches from getting punched every other day by the guy in the next cell who collects a pack of smokes per hit, to having his food served with a used rubber inside. In the bathroom, while the new guy sits pretty in one corner, legs crossed and filing his nails like he booked a spa appointment, Barry shows up. The G-Lord's boss wants a taste, and John doesn't say no, but his price is firm. Half an ounce of grass and 4 packs of smokes. It's steep by prison standards, though Barry says he'll come through. Earlier, John had arranged with Officer Shanahan to help set things up, getting him to call a fake request that'd leave the cell door unlocked with Nelson alone inside. The new guy panics, but gets told it's nothing serious, just relax. And seconds later, the G-Lords grab him, shove a paper bag over his head, and drag him off to Barry's cell. Barry welcomes him with his special toilet drink and a casual speech, trying to ease him into it. He shares weird stories like they're old friends, but Nelson's too scared to even breathe steady. Eventually, Barry tells him he won't lay a finger on him, at least not today. Same way a gentleman tells his date he's not rushing things, then leans in and asks for an Eskimo kiss. Biederman, still trembling, goes along and he's let go, but not before Barry drops his version of a relationship rule. He'll do whatever he wants to him, whenever he feels like it. He picks up a new habit, journaling the mess he's been through. Today, he's on the floor, back against the steel bars, scribbling into his notebook, when one of Leonard's guys walks up and starts peeing right on the pages. No apology, just a warning that Leinard's getting out of the hole soon, and when he does, things are about to get a whole lot worse. Back in the cell, John lets him know the truth that Leonard's not gonna kill him quick, and he'll beat him over and over. Stretch it out, then maybe finish the job months from now if he feels like it. At the cafeteria, it only gets worse. John's going on about how inmates are already placing bets with Shanahan on when and how he'll get taken out. But somehow, the new guy decides the best move is to go reason with Leonard himself. His bunkie actually encourages it, even though he knows that's not good. So he walks up to the gang's table and starts trying to give some heartfelt speech, and barely gets halfway in before the scary guy jabs a fork into his thigh, just above the knee. Then he calmly grabs another and does the same to the other leg. While he's hunched over and whimpering, Nelson tries to hope maybe this'll count for something, like maybe getting stabbed twice buys him some mercy. Leonard even admits it took guts to walk up like that. Says the only other man who ever did was his own dad, who he ended up killing. So yeah, the new guy's still on the hit list, but he does get to live a little longer. He eventually yanks the forks out himself and calls it a day, leaving Nelson to limp back to the table, where he tells his buddy his execution's been delayed, unaware of his pal signaling Shanahan that the odds have changed. Later in the cell, John lays out his options. Curl up and die, fight the gang boss, or just wait for the end. None of those sound great, so he suggests a fourth. Apply for a private cell. And that sounds like gold, but before he can ask what it takes, John tosses a ball to draw a guard's attention, ducks behind him, and socks the guard square in the face, which earns the judge's son a ticket to the hole. 2 days in that box, and the guy's fried with no windows, no sense of time, nothing but his own thoughts turning to noise. By the time the guards pull him out and walk him back to his cell, he's drained and shaking, convinced he's not going to survive this place. He stops by one of the regulars in the yard, a guy who runs his little black market hustle with pride, says he's got something for every kind of pain. Nelson doesn't ask too many questions, just says he wants out, not a breakout, just something to make the weight of the sentence go quiet. The vendor thinks for a second, then digs through a stash and pulls out a bottle marked for boat cleaning, explaining it gets the job done fast. Back in the cell, John spots Leinard's crew heading their way and dips without a word. Seconds later, the gang's inside, and the leader tells the others to wait outside, as he wants this one to himself. He starts swinging straight away, but Nelson doesn't fold. He blocks a few, lands some of his own, and when the cramped space won't let him move properly, he climbs the top bunk and starts throwing kicks from above. It works for a minute, as he's landing shots and keeping the upper hand until Daddy's killer shrugs it off and gets ready to pounce again. The scuffle knocks over something from the bunk, a syringe already filled with the boat cleaner. Leonard pauses when he spots it, asks what it is, and the other guy gives it a name off the top of his head, not thinking much of it. Whatever makes it sound like it's for getting high. The gang leader's told not to touch it, but of course, he doesn't listen and jabs it in without flinching. Just like that, the problem solves itself. The cheering outside the cell dies off as the new hero drags the dead body out with that look of someone who just earned their stripes, and it works as the rest of the gang back off fast. John steps in, acting like he's on his side, then mentions killing a man inside can tack on 20 extra years. But Nelson just smirks and says he didn't kill anyone, holding up the same syringe the dead man used on himself. That's when John slips and says something out loud that hints this wasn't exactly how he planned things. The other man catches it and asks what he just heard, but the veteran dodges, brushing it off. At the canteen, he strolls in with Lishitsky, and the whole place goes quiet. One of the White Kingdom boys comes up from behind, which makes him turn around quick, with a fork already up. Turns out, the guy's not picking a fight. He's offering an olive branch on behalf of the crew because Leinard wasn't much of a team player anyway. John can't believe it, as this wasn't the plan. Now the guy's got respect and no clue what to do with it. To prove it's real, John tells an inmate to stand so the new boss can sit. And when the guy does, Nelson lets loose a few insults for good measure. The inmate just walks off, And while that moment right there gives the guy a rush, Lashitsky, on the other hand, realizes his own setup just backfired. Later, the boss heads to the toilet to take a leak, only to bump into Barry again, still claiming they're a thing. When B leans in with his usual moves, the guy shoves him hard, followed with 2 punches to the face. Barry snaps and grabs his neck, choking him, but Nelson manages to appeal to whatever feelings Barry still thinks they share and finally gets free. He even throws out his arms for a hug, which Barry takes without hesitation. But before they even touch, the White Kingdom rushes in, having caught wind of the whole thing, and they dogpile Barry. The boss intervenes, shouting for them to back off, but by the time the guards show up and see the mess, they take one look and blame John, who's been watching the whole thing from a corner. Just like that, they throw him in the hole. By the time he's out, the whole place is changed. His roommate's now the one everyone looks up to, running karate sessions, cracking jokes in the yard with a full audience, even getting put in charge of the prison theater group that Lashitsky's part of. Eventually, Nelson decides to show gratitude, starts going on about how much he's learned and how he wouldn't have survived without his cellmate. That alone ticks John off, and as soon as he's alone, the veteran goes off kicking over stuff, smashing what he can, wrecking the whole cell in frustration. This isn't what he signed up for when he traded his freedom for time behind bars. Meanwhile, Barry and Top Dog are close now. Real close. One day, the big guy suggests they should sip some toilet wine, maybe rough up a newbie or two, but the White Kingdom leader passes, which Barry doesn't take too well, as he starts whining about how his friend never wants to hang out anymore. Left alone in Barry's cell, John walks in with a can of Fresca and a full speech, talking about how far he's come, how proud he is, and how he hopes the upcoming hearing goes in his favor. Calls it a parting gift from a trusted comrade. The drink's already cracked open, which sets off alarm bells. John gets all offended, swears he'd never hurt him, and says the opened can is just him being thoughtful. He even takes a sip himself to calm suspicions, guilt-tripping him with the whole "how could you think that of me" routine. It works, and Nelson takes the drink back and chugs it. Bad move, because the drink was spiked. Minutes later, he's out cold, and cellmate, calm as ever, hits his own gag reflex to purge the same stuff from his system, then quietly calls in backup for the next phase. Next morning, Nelson's taken to court for his hearing. He tries to explain how jail has changed him and how he's reformed, but there's a giant offensive tattoo sprawled across his forehead, courtesy of his loving cellmate, and he's the last to know. The whole court can see it, and with that look alone, his speech goes nowhere. The panel denies his early release and instead recommends he serve every day of his sentence. He comes back to the cell fuming, ready to tear someone apart. The second he steps in, he lunges at John and they go at it, both throwing fists until the veteran gains the upper hand. While pinning him against the bars, he drops the truth that he knew Judge Biederman, and he blames that man for ruining his life, locking him up every chance he got, and that's why he went for the son. But the judge's kid breaks free, flips John, and slams his head into the bunk. That's when Shanahan barges in with backup, but instead of breaking it up, the senior officer grins and schedules a fight between them, framing it as a one-round, no-rules match where the winner gets a bullet prize. Either way, this story ends in body bags. From that moment, the guards assign someone to monitor them round the clock just to keep them from killing each other before fight night. The bets start flying. Officers, inmates, everyone's got money on the line. Even the warden hears about it, though not through any formal channel. John takes it all in with pride, feeling like he nailed every step of his revenge plan. He just regrets one thing, and that's sharing a cell with the target. Then comes visiting time, and the surprise guest is Barry. The big guy's out, but he couldn't stay away as life outside without his baby just didn't work. He mentions he's thought about catching a charge just to land back inside, and the visit gets emotional. At least on one side, with Nelson calling him the closest thing to family he's got left. Barry swears he'll do anything for him, and that's perfect, because the inmate's got just the job. Across town, Dwayne's kicking back, playing golf in the office when the phone rings. It's the judge's son, and he wants out, but Dwayne reminds him he's got no legal cards to play anymore, so the prisoner has another idea. Turns out, the Foundation charter allows his son to inherit the role if Nelson can't serve, and, well, he's adopted someone new. That's how Barry storms into the office, all 300 pounds of love, and tells Dwayne to get lost because the chairman's seat now belongs to him. The warden calls for Shanahan, and after his usual stiff brand of humor, he places a bet like everyone else. The fight's been on for a while now, with John hovering over his opponent before he smears part of his shirt soaked in industrial cleaner across the other guy's face, throwing him off balance just enough to land a few solid kicks. Now both of them whip out syringes, scrambling to jab each other. Then suddenly Biederman switches things up, says they should quit the drama and call it a draw. They seem to agree, and he gives a short speech about the one big thing he's learned: never trust anybody. He lunges forward and injects Leshitsky, but the other man jabs him back at the same time. They both drop flat, motionless, and Shanahan fires a warning shot to scatter the crowd, then steps aside as the med team arrives and declares both men dead. Cut to the burial, where after the last handful of dirt is thrown, the Biederman Foundation hands over control to Nelson's only surviving son, Barry. Once the mourners leave, the big guy digs up the grave and pulls out the man inside, alive and well. All has been part of the plan. The moment Shanahan told them their fate was sealed either way, they worked something out. Nelson visited the usual vendor and picked up a liquid that knocks a man out cold for 3 straight days. That's what they injected. And the medical staff had been paid off by Barry. As they stand over the second grave, Nelson contemplates leaving his cellmate in there to rot. But it's the fat man's soft side that cuts through. He tells him not to tempt karma, and after some back and forth, they shake hands as whatever grudge they had dies there. Fast forward a year, and the couple now runs Baby Duck Wine, the worst tasting product at the Wine Expo. One of the judges is seconds away from torching their ratings when Ken, formerly John, steps up with 2 former inmates perched at a corner, intimidating enough to change the score instantly. Everyone in the room takes a sip, holds it down, and nods in slow agony. But that's fine, as Nelson, John, and Barry are living the dream.